It is the beta branch 1.5. It has dropped, and it's actually pretty exciting. So we have a lot of stuff to go through here today, guys. The patch notes for this are pretty large, so we're going to kind of go through a lot of it with somewhat of a fine-tooth comb. I'm going to try to just scan through the bigger things. A lot of the multiplayer rebalancing that happened, I'm not going to cover in this video because stuff like Valandian peasants have had this much more increase to this stat or this decrease to this stat. I don't want to jump into that stuff as much, but there are a lot of things that were added to both single player and especially to multiplayer in beta branch 1.5. So before we dive into all the patch notes, let me give you the down and dirty quick bullet point list of what has changed, or at least some of the really big high point things in these beta branch notes. So for one, there are new armors for Stygia and Battania. They're pretty cool. We'll take a look at them at the towards the end of this video. But there was a complete combat overhaul in both single and multiplayer. It's way tighter and way more responsive. You'll see when we kind of jump into some of the combat scenarios. And honestly, you won't be able to really witness them as well unless you're actually in the game yourself and you actually get control of things. But the stuff feels a lot tighter. The UI in combat has changed just slightly, but combat overhaul is pretty huge. They've done an added bow, crossbow, and athletic perks. So they've added combat portions to the athletic perks, and they've also now given us an overhaul to both bow and crossbow. If you were planning to use a bow on a horse, any type of bow, like a longbow, that is still not fully implemented. Hopefully it will by the end of the beta branch 1.5, but I just want to let you know up front that it's in like the 225 skill category, around there. That's where you can access all bows on horses, and it's not active right now. But a huge multiplayer rebalance and overhaul, including spear bracing, new maps, a clan system. The beta servers were added, so a lot of cool multiplayer stuff. Campaign map texture and visuals overhaul with new army locations on the map that you can see. Encyclopedia favorites, so if you're tracking a very specific character, you can just go ahead and go through that. A new hideout troop management screen. Cultural game menu images for keeps and arenas, so anytime you go to, say, a Battanian keep or a Battanian arena, you get a really cool image on the left side, which I'll show off later in this video. You can also now assign NPCs to captain specific formations. Say, for example, formation number 3 is your cavalry. Then you can have a companion that has a high amount of cavalry-esque riding and polearm skills to then apply those skills to the formation because he is now the captain of it. If he dies, then another companion within that formation will take over. Now, and on top of that, there is new formation AI and tactics that were improved. It's still a little buggy, but it's way better. For example, if you do a shield wall, then shielded units will go in front and non-shielded will go in the back. So if you've got, say, a bunch of two-handed infantry units and a bunch of heavy infantry shielded units, and you click shield wall, before they would just kind of get in a random hodgepodge. Now they'll actually jump shields in front and non-shielded in back. So that's your quick and dirty list. We're 3.5 minutes into this video. So if that's all you needed to do, that's all you wanted to know, you can go ahead and shut the video down and go jump into the beta branch if you so wish, or wait until the next one, whatever it's gonna tickle your pickle here. Before you do close down though, I have to tell you, you don't need to make a new campaign. You're free to start your previous 1.4.3 beta branch save or your 1.4.2, whatever you want to do. You're completely fine to use your old existing save. You don't need to make a new one for the beta branch. I've noticed it's just fine on a current save. If you are enjoying this kind of down and dirty kind of overview of the beta branch notes, please, please, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. That does actually help me out a whole ton. So even if you don't want to sit through the rest of this video, that can really, really help me out. But for those of you who want to really get down and dirty with 1.5, let's get going, brother. So there's a lot in this patch. And again, I'm not going to cover every little thing, but we'll go through the performance here real quick. Improved performance of retreat and flee behaviors of battle formations. This is important because this would actually cause CPU and or GPU load onto your machine and make it so the game would stutter and stammer. If you remember 3 or 4 patches ago, maybe, the game was almost unplayable towards the end of battles. And that was because the game was constantly querying the CPU for basically pathing on how to retreat from the battlefield. So this has been improved and making it so that battles are a little bit more optimized. optimize AI ranged and melee target selection for performance and spike reduction, and GPU performance improvements for towns. Make shadow occlusion queries great again. I'm American, and that's a really sensitive subject right now. But save and load. Refactored the save and load file paths so they won't include the native folder. This does not really affect you guys in any way, shape, or form. I talked to my little Tan, who is a modder, who has created a lot of amazing mods, especially the equipment encyclopedia mod that I use for my unit guide videos. And he said that it just simply sounds like it's just not using the native folder. It's not going to go game saves / native anymore, or native / game saves. It's just going to be game saves. We don't know what that really does right now. So that's neither really here nor there, but fix a couple crashes here and there and some bugs. Art has got some pretty big ones in here. So we added a new Stygian light armor, improvements on Empire wall brick textures, and so on and so forth for the Empire dungeon as well. Fixed some just kind of issues here and there with a lot of textures across castles, across visual glitches, across towns, so on and so forth. Crafting axe pieces have been optimized for future updates, hinting possibly at an overhaul on the crafting system, which they've said they are going to be doing. They made some improvements, like adding dynamic barriers and indestructible merlins to the Stygian, Azerian, Khazadi, and Valandian castles, those specific map distinctions. 3 new hair types, a new Battanian chainmail armor, which is actually pretty cool. We'll show that off a little bit later. And just some other little overhauls here and there and fixes and tweaks. Helmets with wrong beard covering tag fixed. I don't really know what that means, but it's fixed. Animations have had a little bit of an improvement here for near wall and stair intersections, but I've also noticed that this gets a little funky. I was trying to do a Sea Raider hideout, and I noticed that I kept like bugging out just walking up the steps as if there was something in the way. So I don't know if that was just the specific staircase I was on and I hadn't gone on it otherwise, or if this somehow is playing into that. So a good heads up there. The campaign map, though, like I was saying, has had a huge kind of uplift as far as its texture detail. Paths and roads were added. They're not huge and distinct, and your character doesn't default to taking them, which I don't really like, but they're there. So that does kind of at least tell us that they've seen the feedback of us wanting paths and roads, but I do wish for them to be paved or to have an actual travel benefit, stuff like that. But they've fixed various visual problems with settlements, improved pathfinding. The Azeri lands are re-rendered, and I didn't know what that meant until I jumped into the game, and they're a lot crisper. There's more detail on the actual mountains and hills and plateaus. It looks a lot more robust, as they say. Slight changes in settlements placement for balance reasons, and this isn't huge sweeping changes to the settlements placement. It's mainly just tweaking them, maybe one settlement a little bit further south and one settlement further north. Just a small little change. It's very not noticeable for the most part, but change in some village production though for balance and lore reasons. So this might be affecting some of your workshops in 1.5. I haven't tested this a whole ton yet, and I actually didn't fine-tooth comb this one and go through a whole bunch of the changes. I do have a map that I'll show up here when we get into the section about going over the campaign map that shows all the productions, village productions, so you can see what's changed by going through that if you so wish. But some other big changes here. There is a new campaign map mobile party tracker. So now players can see and track, keep inside their screen, mobile parties of their clans and armies of their kingdom on the campaign map, while they're not in the spotting range. This is huge. So now you can actually track where armies are rather than just kind of like aimlessly walking around until you find them. I'll show that off in a bit. You can now make a favorite encyclopedia in your encyclopedia. So let's say you're trying to track a very specific, say, faction leader or the father or the head of the clan of someone you want to marry. You can now use encyclopedia favorites to help better track them. A new hideout troop management screen. This was showed off during the developer update by Tailworlds themselves, but we now get the nice new and improved one. It's just a quick pop-up that appears over the campaign map. It's not a whole new screen, so we'll go over that one. We'll go over that one in a little bit too. Players can now input numbers directly in custom battle sliders. Before you just had to hopefully get to the number you wanted to get. And if you're anal retentive like me, 49 and 51 is not what you want. You want 50. So this is makes it a little bit easier when it comes to doing the custom battles. And also added new game menu images for each culture's settlement keep and arena menus. I'll show that off as well. But basically, when you jump into a keep, or I'm sorry, into a town, and you jump, and you see the little menu on the left, that's just a generic image. But when you click keep or you click arena in a specific cultural settlement, that now reflects the culture of that settlement. It's a pretty nice little touch there. I like it a lot. But for battles and sieges, we get a lot of other cool stuff. So added automatic captain assignment without a captain. To use this feature, assign a formation to a companion from the party screen. Once a battle starts, the first companion/hero that is assigned to a formation is picked as the captain of the formation. This also works for the AI parties. Now, let's say, for example, you've got 3 companions that are cavalry characters. I've got that in my Khazate playthrough. The way I read this is that the first one that I set to formation number 3 is the one that is quote unquote the captain and the leader of that formation. I don't know if it's actually the way it's ordered in the party screen. Maybe, okay, whatever, going from the top to the bottom, who is the first companion that is in the 3rd formation? Oh, it's this character? Okay, that's the hero. Or that's the captain. I haven't been able to really discover that, and I can't really break down the numbers of what's actually happening to the actual formation to determine if this is actually how it works. So if you know from actual experience, please go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. That way I can at least pin that or let it be known that, hey, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work. But this actually is very nice. I've noticed that the captain really provide a lot of awesome perk bonuses to their troops as long as the perk is currently active. So when you choose those perks in the character screen that say, hey, this is for personal/captain, well, those captain perks will now apply for your companions. And it makes selecting perks a lot easier for your companions because you're going to say, hey, well, I don't really care about the personal effect of this. I only care about the captain effect. So it's a very nice touch, and I really, really, really enjoy this one. Captains provide formation-wide perk bonuses to their troops, and if a captain dies or flees, the next living companion or hero, if there are any, within the same formation is picked as the new captain. So you have captains now at your disposal. So we also have this huge chunk of information about AI and tactics overhaul. So this has had a pretty big change, and this is huge because combat now performs a bit differently. There are, again, some bugs. Like if you zone into a map with cavalry or horse archers, you'll notice they're just gonna they all jam into like a really tight circle. It's really weird until you give them an order or you have them move. But troops with throwing weapons now have their own skirmisher category. They are no longer used as archers by the AI, which cause various problems. So what this means is when you say recruit Sturgian woodsmen, they won't immediately default to formation 1 or formation 3. They should default to the skirmisher formation. The horse archer formation behaviors improved to make them protect themselves and pull back better and not to get stuck between enemies. Archer formations moved around too much, making AI armies far less effective than they could be, and a lot of logic added to make them more stable. So you should see the archers of both the AI you control, or I'm sorry, the AI you're on the same side of, and the AI that you're opposing respond better and actually shoot more often rather than running around a lot, which I've always kind of noticed. And I've seen that this also makes them pivot less. What I would always notice is if I put my archers in a loose formation, they would always pivot to make that formation face the target they were shooting at or that was close to them. What they've done now is they tend to rotate in place rather than actually pivoting as a whole entire formation, which I actually like a lot more. Army approaching enemy army to get in missile range logic overhauled to make it more effective and stable. AI now stops and lets its formations form up before continuing moving when it changes their arrangement, such as to and from shield wall. And that's pretty nice as well. AI formations now recognize if most of the units here, this is the good one, if most of their units have shields or not, and accordingly chooses loose arrangement under missile fire instead of shield wall if they don't have shields. And this also corresponds to this one. When a mixed unit formation is given a shield wall arrangement order, units with shields will move to the front ranks, switching places with soldiers without shields. So like I said earlier, if you have your first formation filled with all types of infantry, both two-handed, both heavy infantry with sword and shield, or just some shielded infantry, then those two-handed infantry will now move to the rear, which is just so nice. It's such a massive quality of life improvement. So I think you'll really like the formation AI and tactics overhaul. The game feels a lot more responsive with your armies, and they actually do a lot more damage in their respective formations, at least from my opinion. So character development system, though, a lot of cool stuff here. This is unfortunate, but Azrai joined the skirmisher's character creation option now grants relatively cheaper javelins. Before, it was granting either the Jarid or the Eastern Javelin. I can't remember. It was like a tier 6 javelin, but that's now been unfortunately fixed. And also across the board with a lot of other of those little choices, you're no longer getting these top tier items out the gate. But added 13 combat-related athletics perk, 10 campaign-related archery perks, and 8 campaign-related crossbow perks. So archery and crossbow have both had their perks added and rehauled or overhauled. Some, of course, do not work right now as of the start of 1.5. But I will be doing a video on perks and my opinion of them. I'm kind of a little upset that we do get these awesome perks changed and overhauled and tweaked and balanced and so on and so forth. Yet they still continue not to work. So it's kind of an open letter to the dev style video that I'll be doing the next couple days here. And I'm actually going to be sending it to Tailworlds ahead of time to see if they can give us a response in the video rather than a response after the fact. That way we get a really cool dialogue with the developers going about possibly what their intentions are with the perks and so on and so forth. But character skills are generated from their traits when the characters come of age rather than when they're born. So that means that if you have a child that has just one skills, don't worry about it anymore. It's going to be fixed when they actually come of age. Some clan and party overhauls here, nothing too crazy for the most part. Kingdoms and diplomacy, again, nothing too crazy. Passive influence gains are tweaked further for balance. Some policies have increased penalties to match their positive effects. So this may or may not contribute or hinder your playthroughs, depending on what it is. And that's a big thing I want to say up front. You can play 1.5 as is. You don't need a new campaign for any of this. So I want to just kind of let that be known right out the gate here. You don't have to make a new campaign for this one. Nothing is crazy that needs that. Settlement actions. So if you're in a settlement and someone goes to war, it'll boot you out of the settlement. That's just something that you get to know right there. A new quest has been added in and out. Also, some caravan ambush quest has been added. We also got some improvements about conspiracy progression, which I do not know if that fixes the conspiracy bug that's been happening or not. So I did want to at least bring that up. Some other little tidbits here, though. Engraved backsword can now be thrusted, which was nice because it was just simply a sword. Why can't it be thrusted? Stats of expert forcer units have been fixed. This is also in line with the Battanian veteran Falksman unit has stats that benefit his weapon of choice. There has been a militia equipment has been balanced and changed. Veteran militia units now use weaker armor and weaponry. This might seem like a bad thing, but what was happening is the standard militia unit was actually better than the veteran militia unit from their armor. So I think that they've kind of tweaked and fixed that and changed it. Like if you were to look at the Sturgian militia unit, then look at a veteran Sturgian militia unit, the standard one had chainmail, the veteran one did not. So I think that they've kind of fixed a lot of this as we'll take a look in a bit. But some stuff here, editor problems about editing AI, hint, objects fixed, editor build deployment improvements. So this tells me that we're on the cusp of those developer tools to be released to the modders. So hopefully that comes at the end of this patch when 1.5 goes live, or hopefully with the next one. We've already seen a little teaser from them, so I'm stoked to see what happens there. But multiplayer, we got a lot of awesome stuff here. Again, 2 new skirmish maps, map fixes overall, some melee combat changes. Now these are important because they also apply to single player. And I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but because it's so abstract to talk about these. Okay, release speed has been decreased, so your weapon swing thrust is slower now. it's hard to really visualize these things without actually jumping into the game. So hopefully when I show the combat in the game, you can actually get a good sense for it. But honestly, it just feels a lot tighter. I feel like I have way more control over my character. He feels so much more responsive when I actually block or actually follow through with a hit. I feel like when I'm doing damage in combat, I'm actually doing the damage I want to do. I'm not just going, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to swing and hopefully hit them. It feels a lot tighter. I really enjoy it. But made it slightly easier to chamber block. More changes to come since it's still quite hard. So chambering will continue to be tweaked. And they've done a lot of just individual tweaks on every single type of weapon. So that's important to note. Range combat itself has been tweaked. I've noticed that you can still do a lot of damage with a headshot and be killed with a headshot. But body shots with archery now seem to do less damage. And it seems to be scaled with throwing weapons as well. So you'll notice, even if you jump on your archer right now to play in single player, this applies to multiplayer as well, you just don't do as much damage to the body, but you still do a ton of damage to the head, which I feel is completely appropriate. So I'm okay with those changes right there. They've made a lot of changes to the collision resistance, to equipment animations. Movement itself has been changed, but this is pretty much for multiplayer. Decreased movement speed during combat. This will make it harder to kind of jump in and out of duels. Mounted combat and movement has changed a little bit as well. So you can't couch a lance and swing all the way to the right and get the hit off as easily. There's been a lot of changes. Also, oh, it's further down. It's further down. They've changed so much stuff with individual weapons. The troop changes, again, those apply to multiplayer. We're not going to go through those because they're so minute that if you're looking for specific multiplayer changes, please go ahead and check out the description where you can go through all of these individual changes. Siege mode improvements as well. The beta servers were launched, so that is massive. Clans have been launched, so they're really giving some love to multiplayer in this patch. Also, spear bracing has been added for multiplayer. I couldn't get it to work in single player. Maybe I'm just dumb. You guys can tell me in the comments if that's the case. But in multiplayer, you can press X and brace your spear. Really great against cavalry. And again, announcement about the beta servers. So overall, it's a really solid patch. For the most part, nothing of pertinent use is here. I guess this one's actually kind of interesting. If you're on a horse now and you run into a tree, your horse won't just go like thunk and keep running. They'll actually rear up into the air. So this is a single player thing, and yeah, horses now rear up when riding into objects too hard. So be mindful of that, both single and multiplayer. So now that we've kind of gone over the patch notes, and I know we went through 20 minutes of patch notes, there's so much to cover here. I apologize for this being so long-winded, but let's jump into the game and show some of the stuff off, because there's actually not a ton to show off. Like I said, you can boot up a current save and be totally fine with this. You're good to go right out the gate. Okay, and here we are in the campaign map. So let's take a look at some stuff real quick. So just zooming out, you can kind of see already that there's a lot sharper of a texture when it comes to the campaign map itself. And as I kind of sweep through things, you can see these portions of the roads kind of trodden into stuff. As you move over to portions of the Empire, some roads become a little bit more apparent and less like actual little paths. So you can see them kind of snaking their way around, just depending on what part of the map it is. I can see like this is a little bit more of an actual road coming out of it. Like I said though, it doesn't actually affect the character's movement, so I'm not too stoked on it. But some settlements too have been just a little bit more densely packed. It's just they've tweaked their placement just a little bit. What you'll also notice on the map is the new signifier of an army, and I can see this all the way out too, right? So you can see this army over here, this army over here, and I can click this button and zoom in and actually see it still on my screen no matter what to jump to the location of that army immediately. And I think that's super powerful, or at least just really handy, right? And this can also be done with your own party in actually assigning them, or I'm sorry, your own clan in assigning them to a new party. You can quickly find them on the map. Makes it just way easier to play around with. Also remember, in this situation now, I can assign people to formations and they'll be captains. I'm not sure if this is based off of skill or their placement on the party menu. I look at it as placement on the party menu and whether or not they were first to be assigned to the formation. I'm just covering both angles as hard as I can. So that's there. We also get, just to kind of, again, show off that nice campaign texture. I am using reshade, so it might look a little bit different when you play, but I've noticed like immediately getting into the map, like there's a nice like drop shadow around all of the numbers that just looks a little bit more apparent now. It's a little bit more crisp, looks a little bit nicer, so I do really like and appreciate that. When I jump into Encyclopedia though, I can press this button and it looks like I'm on my Android, and I'm pressing favorites on my Android to my contacts, and if I jump over to Heroes, he's now at the very top of that list. And it's not, so if I jump over to, let's just go to the very bottom of the troops. It's per category. Then jump over to troops, it's at the top. So I'm not going to be able to click settlements and see that at the top here. It's just per category, and this is the respective categories. So that gives us a really cool idea of how that operates now with the new favorite system. If I jump over here to a hideout real quick, I'll show you the new hideout screen when it comes to selecting units to go into this. We'll wait until nightfall, and it's a little bit nicer. It can be a little jarring at first because it's kind of takes you by surprise, but I think that once you see this, and again, this is already shown off, so we'll wait until this gets all the way there, and we'll press attack, and there we can choose our troops, and it's, you just subtract, minus. Very easy, very cool, very nice to manage our way through. So that is the new hideout system. And now when we also jump over to cities, we get the new cultural menu. So hopefully between all these overhauls with the signing of the captains and everything like that, it'll make combat a lot more fluid. And we'll jump into combat in just a bit. So if I click, well, for one, this is a nice little Khazadi cultural background. Click arena, I get the same thing. Click keep, I get the same thing. So it's a nice little touch. It wasn't required. I didn't think I needed it, but now that it's here, it makes for a little bit better immersion when I'm jumping from city to city, kind of actually feel like I'm at that culture city. We also have all of the new skills for bow and crossbow. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but they are present. Like I did say, Horsemaster, you can now use all bows on horseback. From what I've seen in the community and from what people have told me and from what I've tested, it does not work right now. Hopefully it will by the end of the beta branch. I think that that is the most important skill in the bow category. So that's a pretty important one, but a lot of these are really cool. Reduce accuracy penalty by moving by 30%. Your attacks with bows ignore 10% of enemies' armor. It's actually a lot better now, I'll show you. Increase your bow reload speed by 25%. Decrease accuracy penalty by 30% while mounted. There's a lot of really nice additions here. And also the fact that the captain portion of it is really strong too. Troops in your formation increase their bow reload speed by 5%. Those captain portions are huge. Also get the nice breakout for the crossbow ones. I think the crossbow ones, and this is, I have not personally tested them yet, and the Bannerlord Perks website is not fully operational right now, so I think that they're updating it in line with 1.5. So I'm not able to see which one of these perks are actually active and working, but there are a lot of padlocks here telling me that they have not even created the art for them, but hopefully some actually do work. But it's kind of interesting. There's this one, your crossbow attacks ignore armor about below 20, which is awesome, but below 20 I don't really care. You're aiming your crossbow is 25% faster. I'm almost always going to take that one. Windwinder, reduce reload time by 25%, also almost always going to take that one. Followed by, or subsequently you can choose Deniter, increase crossbow damage against mounts by 40%. So you can see there's kind of a set path with those two, but these are some pretty awesome new crossbow perks. Athletics, again, got some additions to their perks, making it so they have got application on combat, so they can actually help out with your combat tweaks and captaining. So those have been added into the game. But let's quickly go into a combat scenario, and then we can kind of show off the responsiveness of just the way the combat feels. It's just a lot tighter, a lot better. We jumped real quick into a practice fight here. I'll probably get killed by some sort of random thing hitting me in the head. But the game just feels like way more responsive when it comes to actual swings and combat. I feel like as soon as I press this button, the character swings the sword. Like, it's not like some sort of like a half-second input delay. Like I can feel like I can carry through with my swipes a lot better. Like everything just feels a lot more responsive when I'm attacking. And I don't feel like I'm gonna get, well, in that case I did get killed in 2-on-1, but I don't feel like I did before where I just kind of got like killed immediately anytime I got into some form of combat. The character felt so slow and sluggish. Everything just feels a lot nicer. Hey, you like that? You like this? How about this? Okay, I forgot I don't have a shield anymore. So, combat, I mean, obviously this doesn't show it off very well. You really have to get your hands on it to really feel how much nicer it is. So I really encourage you to kind of get your hands on the combat system now to really get a feel for this, because it really does feel a lot nicer. Oh, that guy just got destroyed. And I feel like I could do 3-on-1, 2-on-1 without worrying as much as I used to. And I like that. And also, getting close and personal with this guy. Ha-ha! When you shoot your bow, the reticle too has changed a little bit. It doesn't automatically get ready to get released. It feels a little bit more fluid and natural. And I don't really don't know how to explain that, but it does just feel a lot better using a bow than it did before. Oh man, I'm just a sniper king right now. Whereas, okay, as soon as I pull this thing, the reticle's out large and it has to focus in. Like, it just feels more natural, and I really like it. Let me jump into an actual battle so I can show you some other stuff. So now that we're here in an actual battle with my dreaded white scars, you can see the initial bug if I press Q. See, we just loaded in, and they do this weird thing where they just kind of huddle into a corner. Or not in a corner, on top of each other real quick. It's kind of annoying, but if you just simply give them any type of order, they'll fix themselves immediately. Also, they fix the bug where if you have a captain or a companion join an infantry unit, or just a unit that doesn't have horses and he has a horse, they won't be all spread out and scattered anymore. So they'll actually be in the proper place. So, also, here's the new shield wall. It's also, they changed it for the, that's not the shield wall. They changed the square formation as well. So if I do this, get a nice tight square, that's a little bit different mechanically. But when I come, oh, by the way, I'm using the photo mod to show that off. If I shoot at a person now, it shows me a different set of text than it used to be if I shot an enemy. It used to be the same text no matter what. So they've changed that UI just slightly. Headshots, like I said, they still do a significant amount of damage, but body shots seem to really do less. See, there's that like reticle kind of, you pull back the bow, it comes in, focus, boom, you're good to go. It just, I don't know why, it just feels a little bit nicer. Combat with the swords and everything feels tighter. I know I've said this like 8 times now, and I'm maybe not showing it off the best. I just wombo comboed. But you really have to experience it yourself to get a good feeling for this. And armor feels a little bit more impactful. These guys are doing like 1 or 2 damage to me because I'm like fully armored up. Like point blank range, I can't hit anyone. But that kind of concludes essentially everything when it comes to combat here for you guys. Let me show you one last thing before we close the video out, and I'll give you my overall impressions about the patch. This is the new Battanian chainmail armor called Highland Chainmail. Armor tier 4, 28 armor, and then 4 leg and 2 arm armor. Now, I'm not sure what the new Stygian light armor is. I thought it might have been this, but I'm pretty sure that's already been added to the game. The lamellar vest and the short lamellar vest were added previously, so were these 2 right here. So I'm not sure what the new quote-unquote light armor is. So if you know, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I'm using the cheat console to get all of the armor in the game, and maybe it's not called Northern, maybe it's called Stygian, but I already looked through Stygian. So if you can, if you know, let me know what it is. I will definitely try and show it off in a picture, that in a pinned comment or something of the sort. So with all that in mind, my impressions of the version 1.5 beta branch are extremely high. It's very stable because they haven't done a whole sweeping number of changes to the game. I can say though that take that with a grain of salt, as the AI kind of, I guess, comes in to the new balance changes with combat, it might drastically shift the power of one nation over another. So that might need to be addressed throughout the beta branch's life cycle. So please keep that in mind. But the stability is there. Very few mods were actually broken with this that I noticed, but I don't use a whole ton of crazy ones anyway. So take that again with a grain of salt. But I think you should absolutely check out 1.5 because this is the future of combat in Bannerlord, and it is very tight and it's a lot better than every single iteration of any patch previously. The game just feels so much more responsive when I'm riding on a horse because they increased the movement type of horses, when I'm attacking with a sword, when I'm even using a spear because they actually changed the way that spear damage works and the dynamic of it hitting. So your character doesn't just hold the spear out for like 8 seconds and that the top of the 8 seconds is when the damage hits. It's just like throughout a lot different of a calculation now. So I really enjoy this patch, and I think it's a huge improvement on the game. I do say that with a lot of the beta branches. There was a couple I'm not too stoked on, but 1.5 is an awesome improvement, and I definitely think you should check it out. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below about anything from 1.5 that I forgot to cover that you think is so huge and you do want people to know more about. I've covered pretty much all of the big bullet points. If you're big into multiplayer, please jump back into multiplayer now. It is a great time to do so, especially with those beta servers. And have a lot of fun. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, all that fun action. If you want to see Beta Branch 1.5 in action, I will be streaming it tomorrow starting around 10:30 a.m. Pacific Daytime, and we'll continue our Battanian campaign. But again, as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take care.